Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
Hi, this is Eric.
And this is Carl.
And welcome back to this Romulans Bearing Gifts, episode 52. Continuing on with Picard, season 3. Getting into the second episode, Disengage. And before we get all into this and hash it out, 2 episodes ago on this podcast, I had sort of just thrown out into the ether this hypothetical question or rhetorical question of, because at the time you and Caleb hadn't seen Picard at all, and I had just seen the first episode myself, that because I know behind the scenes that season 2 and season 3 of Picard were basically produced back to back with no real break in between, and I'm assuming there was some crossover of writers or someone working behind the scenes. How in the heck is the tonal shift of season 3 so different from season 2? Going back to several months ago when season 2 concluded of Picard, and they said, season 3 is coming, we already did it. Because of that foreknowledge, initially when I had thoughts about Picard season 3, I thought it would sort of pick up events at the end of season 2 with the Borg, and they were going to go off and team up with the Borg and discover some other issue in another part of the galaxy. Those were my initial thoughts months and months ago before we knew anything about the actual series. And then to actually finally see it and to like, do you have any thoughts on this? Like, how is this even possible? Like I said, it would make more sense if it was like, oh, there was 12 months in between the production of season 2 and season 3 or something. But I don't know, do you have any thoughts on how tonally everything different this season is, and then in the back of your mind thinking they just made this back to back? Like, any thoughts on that?
That's an interesting thing. I hadn't put that thought together, but now that you say it, well, to be honest, my first reaction is, if I was more attached to elements of the season 2 storyline, I would miss it, going into season 3. I was like, oh, I really want to know what happened with this, or, oh, that's, something that I'm dying to find out more about from season 2. Alas, that is not my sensation. I'm so happy to be getting away from what they were doing that you bring up a completely legitimate point I hadn't thought about, but I was so relieved in the change in tone. I was so happy that, they have kind of, tonally gone in a different direction, that I was perfectly willing to abandon those things. But now you bring it up. Yeah, what happened to the Borg? Where, what is all of that stuff? Maybe they'll bring it up. I don't know. But I'm so happy with the shift. I don't miss that.
And I also brought up, rhetorically 2 episodes ago, in the old days of television making, because they would still be producing new episodes while a season was currently airing on television, and they only had like a lead time, depending on the show, depending on the era, maybe 3-4 weeks. They would wrap up an episode and then it would air on television. And because of the old model in the old days, if they started getting like intense feedback about something early in a show season, like if people started complaining, like, why are we stuck on Earth? Then while constructing the season, they would try to do a course correct, like in real time. Like, oh, nobody likes all this Earth stuff. Let's try to go to space, or whatever the case is for whatever show. So that, they would actively, try to respond to feedback in real time. We all know in the age of streaming that most streaming series are completed before the first episode ever hits any service. So it's already in the can. So you can't go back and course correct like you could in the old days with feedback. So the fact that 3 was produced back to back with season 2 of Picard, that even more befuddles me because they didn't have all the feedback, you know what I mean, of season 2. Somehow they just course corrected on their own. Someone needs to release a documentary at some point to explain how all this happened, because it just blows my mind.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I suspected this might happen, and not because I had any insider information. It was simply I knew I would be more upset knowing that, my reaction is, well, why weren't we getting this for the previous 2 seasons? Why are you going to wait till the last season when you're wrapping everything up to finally bring this into it? So I just, from a frustration standpoint, I'm like, yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're going to make the last one good, and then the previous 2 seasons we're going to wonder what the heck happened. So I kind of felt it was coming. But yes, I do not understand. I don't know. That is a source of frustration and confusion.
Yeah, and for now, Terry Matalas, who's the lead showrunner currently, but he was there for season 2. But anyway, he is considered the hero right now, if you read any glowing reviews of season 3. So for now, until we know more, somehow Terry Matalas, executive producer, righted the ship of this show and its direction. And I don't know, that's amazing. He did do some prior work on older Trek, not much, but he's done a lot of things besides Trek. So at least for now, kudos to you, sir. But I don't know, it's just so interesting and how, because going back into Trek lore, there was a sense of, this reminds me of when you read back in the historical stories of what happened between the motion picture and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, how they brought in Harv Bennett and some other folks, and they creatively, steered the movie franchise in a different direction, because obviously the motion picture didn't perform the way they wanted it to, yada, yada, yada. And Harv Bennett introduced a lot of elements that I think Roddenberry was opposed to at the time, and perhaps some others, because they made it more, they gave it a militaristic type of feel, like grounded it. They tried to ground the motion picture Star Trek into real world military, like, and I think that's the part that Roddenberry was opposed to. But it seemed to work in the grand scheme of things. And you saw, because they said this in promotional materials leading up to season 3, they mentioned that they were trying to bring back some of that military feel, a la Wrath of Khan. And you feel it in the first episode when Kirk and Riker first board the Titan, and they have the Boss Lane whistle right away, hearkening back to the Wrath of Khan. And I don't know. I mean, I love it all, and like I said, I hope someday we learn more about what happened, because with this Paramount Trek, especially the live action stuff, if you want to freak yourself out, like I did this a couple weeks ago, go back and try to watch Discovery season 1, episode 1. Discovery's already its own thing, its own conversation, but it's even more remarkable if you go back to actual season 1. It is a wild acid trip of a show. And it seems like with the Paramount live action stuff, initially they really try to go like their whole, like, we want to do something different, this whole different direction. And it seems like they've been worn down as the years have gone by with Discovery. And I don't know if we talked about this before, but Strange New Worlds, when the series finally came, it seemed like now they were really relenting. You know what? Maybe let's just give the people what they want rather than trying to get them to like what we want to put out. it kind of seemed like that was the beginning of the dam breaking. And now with season 3 of Picard, it's just full on. Let's just try to give them what we think they want. And I mean, I'm glad. I'm just so curious about the behind the scenes discussions and 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 who were the voices on the saner side of things, and I'm curious about the dissenting voices who didn't want to relent to this, like returning to Star Trek form. I don't know. I'm just really curious, and I hope one day that comes out eventually.
Yeah, well, that would be a curious story. In my opinion, when Discovery jumped to the future, that was the beginning of the realization that they were doing something a little different than what the fans wanted. I found that season where in Discovery where they finally jumped to the future as the reboot that began to even pull Discovery back into something that is closer to what the fans want. And so, Discovery, that season happened. Then Strange New Worlds came out. Now, but they still had 2 seasons of Picard in there, where they were doing something different. But still, clearly somebody they're figuring it out. They're getting the message somehow in here. And so I too would be interested to see, I don't know. Well, all right, we're going off on a tangent, but I just will say one more thing. These major motion picture houses and and production houses, they get this idea that they want to, with these legacy series, Star Wars, Star Trek, Galactica, whatever. They keep getting this idea that we want to bring in people who either have never seen the original, so we can get a fresh take, or we want to go in a different direction. And I don't know why they do that. If they're going to do that, give them a different show. Give them their own series. People, if you're trying to bring in the fans, why don't you respect what the fans like? There's a difference between stagnating, and doing exactly the same thing and never changing, and then becoming something totally perpendicular to what the fans know and love. There's a lot of play in between that space, and they never seem to out of the gate hit that sweet spot. So I am curious, what this lesson is that they're learning. I don't know. I don't know. But it's clear something happened.
Yeah, and when I watched the closing credits, which again are like the opening credits for Picard season 3, when I watched them on the second episode, instead of paying attention to all the beautiful Elcar stuff going on and all the Easter eggs, I just actually paid attention to the actual credits themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Holy smokes. There's about 10 executive producers. There's like 3 co-executive producers.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 supervising producers. The whole Elcar section of the closing credits is all producers. It's not till it gets to the standard form that you start to see other people besides producers. It's pretty nutty. I don't know how that works, but when there's 10 executive producers. But anyway, woo! Disengage. So episode 2. Again, this show, at least based upon 2 to 3 episodes, is definitely still in the serialized format, which I kind of get because it is essentially a motion picture that's been chopped up into sections. So in that sense, I get it. I am still a little because I do like the more cornered off singular episodes, even if you are telling an archetype story. I mean, this is not really a detriment to the show. That's not really what I'm saying, but it is and it isn't. Because 2 episodes in, this show is still definitely rocking. It's just, I guess this is a me problem. I don't like this feeling of having to wait till the next week. I mean, maybe that is a good thing if I step back from it. I mean, because it shows that I'm invested.
Yeah.
But it's killing me. It's killing me.
Yeah, I on one hand, I mean, I am frustrated by that, But on the other hand, with this being the final season, we are getting one big movie, and I think, if it was going to keep going, like, what maybe Discovery is supposed to be, a Strange New Worlds, episodic, broken up into the pieces, uh, uh is, more traditional track and all of that stuff. But we're saying goodbye here to our old guard, and I think the continuousness of this is more respectful to the conclusion of that. So, that's the trade-off. I mean, I am frustrated in the delay, but, with this being the end, we got to savor this. And I prefer, I just hope, that they can carry the story through all, what is it, 10 of these episodes. I'm hoping that they can, carry an arc through all 10 in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah, and in a weird roundabout way, it harkens back to the original TNG, because back in those days, oh my gosh, when TNG was, currently airing, that was arguably my peak time as a Trekkie or Star Trek fan. Like, that was a time in my life when almost everything I cared about as far as media was just strictly Star Trek. Like, nothing else. Just Star Trek was kind of all I cared about for the most part during those years. It was kind of the height of my fandom, where I owned as many technical manuals as I could, and I was just obsessed with all that stuff. And back in those days, whether it was a mid-season cliffhanger, which, those are pretty infamous, or if it was even like a during the season cliffhanger, I would go nuts in those days. I mean, with anticipation, go nuts with anticipation and speculation. And oh god, it's definitely worse when it's mid-season, obviously, because you got to wait 3.5 months or whatever, which seems like an eternity.
Best of both worlds. Remember that?
Oh god, yes.
That was
Oh god, yeah.
that was rough. Yeah, yeah.
And especially my younger self back then, because 3.5 months felt like 18 months. And at that younger age I was, it felt like an eternity. But so yeah, in a roundabout way, maybe it's a good thing that yeah, because I felt this way for Strange New Worlds, but that was different. But I was gonna say, it's a good sign, I guess, if I'm pining for the next episode of Star Trek whatever
Yep.
to come out, because Strange New Worlds is really the only, as much as I like the other Star Trek shows, I mean Lower Decks, as much as I enjoy those shows, I'm not pining for the next episode to come out. Like, it just comes when it comes.
Yeah.
But with this one, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to know the answers to these questions, these pending questions. So, Raffi is still on her quest, and I was still very dubious. Seriously, I really thought that whoever her handler was, quote unquote, I really had a feeling it was going to be someone nefarious.
Yeah, that would have been a traditional way to go with that. That she'd been tricked, she was deceived, she was a pawn in a broader scheme, all of that. I was feeling that. Yep.
Now, before we get to the reveal of who the handler is, she's still following this trail of breadcrumbs. Her handler's telling her, disengage, but she's like, no, this is whatever she's on to here. This is bigger than her. This is bigger than, these are high stakes. She's convinced, and she actually meets up with the father of her child, and they're an estranged couple now, obviously. And he sets her up with this ultimatum, like, he's like, oh, the only reason I met with you because I thought you wanted to check in on your kid, but of course you're just off chasing who knows what thing. And he gives her this ultimatum, I either help you with this, or you re-engage with your kid, but not both, whatever. Okay. As much as I'm not really a fan of the Raffi character, no offense to the actress at all, just her character as we've been dealing with her since this show, since Picard initially started, as much as I'm not a fan of her, I have to say, this almost really seems unfair to continually put her character through the ringer. It's almost a bit much how much they have tortured this character in this series. Um, I don't know.
Okay, so again, this is kind of like this is Kurtzman's way, though. You know, don't I mean again, what I said last episode is they have bundled up all of Kurtzman's angst into one character here. But if you think about Discovery, if you think about all of the characters in early Picard, everybody had pain, everybody had unfair circumstances. I mean, look, even Picard, out of the gate, the death of all of the Romulans, he was just trying to save them. His legacy was tarnished by that. Now, as fans, we don't want to see that, but they're using this to try to draw us in, and I guess to try to make the characters more real or something. You know, in order to tone it down, like I said, and to finally get us back to the characters that we love, they have condensed it into one character. But that is the pain, that's the angst that he's been trying to put in all the characters all along. It's just they toned it down to finally one again now. So I agree, it is unfair. You know, we've been through a lot with her. She's, but this is the device that seems to be his style, and the only character that we don't all know and have an emotional investment and have a history of expectation with is the one he's got to go this way with. You know, he's got to run. I got to put my emotion in here somewhere. There you go. So this is what we're seeing with Ravi, and I have a sneaking suspicion it will likely be with Jack also, because right, this is the compromise. They're the characters that we know and love of Next Generation that were not this way, and it's what we liked about those characters. But it's set in this modern universe with the the aesthetic of what we believe modern sci-fi should be. So for the only characters that we don't have that history with, they're going to shoehorn the emotion back in and try to wrap us around that. So yeah, I agree it's unfair, but this is the compromise.
Interesting. And you keep attributing it to Kurtzman, and it probably is him. I mean, as it pertains to Paramount Plus properties, but of course, initially Kurtzman, like earlier in his career, he kind of came up under the wing of J.J. Abrams, and talk about creator who I've had a love-hate relationship with over the decade plus. But anyway, it was really part of the J.J. Abrams template, to kick off a movie or his early series that he used to produce. It was definitely his way to kick off with an emotional death. I used to track this when I used to follow J.J. Abrams movies so closely. But if you looked at like all the movies he directed, I don't know if this still holds true because I need to get out a chart and look at his filmography. But up to a certain point in his movie making career, J.J. Abrams, every single one of his movies had a significant death to like our protagonist or whomever, a significant death in like the first 5 minutes of every J.J. Abrams movie up to a certain point. It was kind of crazy.
I am, now that you mention it, I'm thinking back about it. But here's the thing: Abrams hits us with that and then moves on. Right? We acknowledge that, we put a pin in that part of that character, and then he moves on with the rest of the story. That's not how Kurtzman does it, though. Kurtzman's got to revisit it, and he's got to come back, and it's all throughout all of the stories, and it becomes its own thing. So yes, but Abrams is faster. Abrams gets on with things, moves on to other characters.
Yes, he almost gets too fast at times, but yes,
too fast. I agree, too fast sometimes. But that's not what Kurtzman has been. And again, I've seen other stuff that he's made. Even outside of the Star Trek universe. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here he is. I see it again. So yeah, it's him. It's him that's doing this.
So going back over to Picard and Riker, at the end of the previous episode, it was, of course, kind of like a semi cliffhanger because we didn't get into it. But once they meet Jack Crusher, which is weird because right away I'm thinking of Wesley Crusher and now Jack, and
Yeah, what happened to
I'm
where?
already like just seeing him as Wesley's younger brother, like at the end of the first episode. But anyway, um, see, I was kind of confused about whoever these Marauders were, or whoever it was who was coming after Beverly and Jack initially, and again, I've only seen each episode one time, really. Each, eventually, I'll go back and look at some of these details again. Um, so, because there was the original Marauder ships that we kind of saw from far away, and they kind of reminded me of generic TNG Voyager rogue ship of the week, like design, like I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Really? I thought it. I just thought it had a Nemesis feel to it.
oh, there's definitely okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry. You're going through the other Marauders first, right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the three Marauders that are attacking them
Right.
just reminds me of random Maquis or whatever Alien of the Week Voyager nondescript ship. Like it just seemed like any other random alien ship that we see in old Star Trek, old TV Trek. Um, and we obviously can't tell who or what they are because their costumes, whoever these Marauders are, they're all covered up and everything. So we can't see a discernible race or alien species or anything like that. Um, anyway, at the very end of the first episode, the big mothership of these Marauders like shows up, and it does have a very what's the name of the ship?
Nemesis.
Yeah, the ship in Nemesis. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. But that one was a very aggressive looking like Romulan ship. The one in Nemesis, and it doesn't look like a Romulan ship, but it's so pointy and sharp, basically.
Right. It's got the
It looks
embracing like a spider's legs thing happening there.
very much. And this one is even more insect like.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a combination of like a spider scorpion type situation. And at the end of the first episode, we don't really know. I don't think. I can't remember if they revealed it or not. Who was actually commanding this ship? I believe the reveals in this episode.
Yeah, this is the one.
Right. So we're introduced to who, at least for now, is the antagonist. And I say for now. The only reason I'm saying that is not to tip off anything, but I'm assuming, Carl, you still haven't seen any of the trailers or teasers for this series.
Nope, haven't seen any.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to spoil Carl or anybody else listening, but if you have seen those teasers or trailers, there's definitely other things to come at some point in the series. So I don't want to go down to any speculation roads, but
yeah,
there's just more to come.
well, we've already seen throughout the season, throughout this series, that there are generally more than one antagonist. So that's fine. I can expect that.
Right. So, but just sticking to this one for now, the reveal of whoever's commanding this adversarial ship. There's this character we're introduced to who is called Vatic, played by the very recognizable. Oh my gosh, I had her name on my
Plumber. Was it Amanda Plummer?
I think that's right. But yes, and if you don't know her by name, she's the iconic woman at the very beginning of Pulp Fiction in the diner. Everyone knows it. The lady who gets up in the chair and is going to execute every last damn one of us at the beginning of Pulp Fiction. And she's been kind of like a character actress in a lot of things post Pulp Fiction. Mm-hmm. And okay, I'm curious to know just Carl's just overall feeling on this character, because there's some things I like. I mean, with this initial meeting and getting to know this character, there's some things I like and there's some things I don't like. But I'm more curious right now what Carl has to say about this antagonist.
Unexpected villain. That's the first thing. I do find her interesting, though. I find her interesting, and I find her confidence and certainty, uh, um, um, concerning. Right? I mean, she's playing a really good villain here. So I'm interested in her, and I find her believable as a villain so far. So I'm interested.
So the things I like, and it is Amanda Plummer. The things I do like is she seems like an interesting choice just in casting. Amanda Plummer, you don't really see that coming as her playing this type of very adversarial character because she almost seems like she'd be the sidekick to an adversarial character. I mean, from a casting point of view. So interesting choice. Uh, I do like early on when we see her on screen, she actually lights a cigarette or something like a cigarette with something like a match, which just seems crazy in the context of Star Trek in the future.
Well, she's got a lighter. It's a lighter she has.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something she struck,
Yeah, no,
but
it's a weird sideways lighter, but it's a lighter she's got.
and I mean this is crazy to see in Star Trek for a number in universe and out of universe. In universe because it's obviously very old fashioned in a futuristic world. Out of universe, oh my god, there's a side character lighting up on whatever planet Raffi's on. Anyway, uh, and then yeah, just to see smoking in the modern era, whether it's on Disney Plus or Paramount Plus. Well, maybe it's the Yellowstone effect, because, but that's a whole different universe in more ways than one. I mean, smoking in Yellowstone, but remember, smoking has been pretty taboo, like on screen for at least I don't know what 10 years now.
Well,
In anything,
yeah, but
I mean, even when you watch a historical, like let's say war setting movie, they even try not to do it at all if possible.
yeah. Well, look, I think you are so interested in it because it seems naturally done. Don't forget, Rios had a cigar,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
but his was cartoony, and like I said, he's supposed to be a space pirate. It was his didn't seem right. His just looked like a cartoon of somebody smoking.
Yes, agree.
Her, the ones that we see, I mean, like I said, this is me. I gotta double check, right? You gotta check yourself to make sure you're just not saying, you just not well, I just like it now. No, when Rios is doing it, it was ridiculous. I'm sorry. It just felt cartoony and big. When we've seen Rafi and the crew, on in Blade Runner Ghetto, and when we see Vatic doing it, there is a subtler realism to it that is not as overplayed as what was going on with Rios. So, we've seen it, but here it just flows better. It just seems more natural. It's not a kind of like what we saw earlier.
I agree with that, and I like how you put that. And so these are elements I'm liking of this Vatic character initially. And what I don't like, and I don't, it's not necessarily anyone's fault yet at this point because this is still, you know, we're still this show is still revealing itself to us, and these characters, these new characters especially. Now, this is sort of like the Star Trek trap that has already existed for a long time prior to this Paramount Plus stuff, and that's like the trap of Khan, the ultimate antagonist in Star Trek, and of many other things as well. And ever since Khan came onto the scene in the movies, um, there's always this, not always, but it comes up here and there where they'll promote something in Star Trek and say like, "Oh, this character is going to be like channeling Khan," or this is going to be like a returning to form, like the Wrath of Khan. And oh my god, this was heavily um, emphasized when Nemesis, like before Nemesis came out. This was heavily emphasized and turned out to be a detriment to enjoying the movie because they overplanted those seeds. But it comes up every now and then when we have certain significant characters in other Star Trek movies or certain particular characters in shows. And whether it's stated or not, your mind just can't help but connect the two or compare and contrast whatever new big baddie to Khan. I think they even, I think some comparisons were made this way with like Nero in Star Trek 2009 as well. And whenever you have these characters like the Tom Hardy character or the Nero character,
or the literal Khan by Cumberbatch, they just keep going back. See, yeah, you blocked it out. You blocked it out.
I'm sorry, I had a brain injury. There's such a void in my memory when it comes to that particular movie. Oh God, I didn't even think about that one.
Yep.
So it's so hard, whether you like it or not, you can't help but try to compare and contrast to the Wrath of Khan in Star Trek 2. And there's certain characteristics, like, so Vadic already gives that, like you said, what did you call it? This, you called it something else, but this overconfidence.
Yeah.
And I don't like that right out the gate, especially when it is so overplayed. And I'm assuming this is by design. No, that's not what I mean. Of course it's by design, but I'm assuming there's going to be more to it.
Yeah.
As we get to know this character more, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to have like this revived faith that I'm giving this season of this show that I wouldn't normally give. I think even that there was that Orion character in recent seasons of Discovery that was this other overconfident antagonist. And it's as much as I'm giving faith to this new season, I still can't help but be a little uneasy when a character is so, I'm just gonna win. You're so weak, compared to me. I'm just gonna win. And the Vadic character is really dancing on this line of mustache twirling where it's great versus where it's gone too far. And that's all just just out the gate. These are like some things that I'm dealing with this character. Like I said, I still have faith that this is not going to go all down a bad road, but I can't help but not think about it.
Yeah, well, that's a reasonable concern. I like you said, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We're going to try to give them a little faith and hope that's the case. If we're going to do another Nebula battle, we need to see something. We need to see something new. Now, I'll tell you, I haven't seen anybody throw a ship at another ship before. That's fun. All right, that was kind of fun. You say you take it on Khan. I do not recall Khan throwing a Reliant at another ship before, so that was pretty cool. Just give me something a little silly, something novel like that.
That almost felt like something that you would imagine happening in an animated Trek.
Sure. Yeah. I'll take it. So, I'm trusting that the broad strokes we might have seen before, but they're going to give us some silliness or something strange, something different to differentiate this new battle. Because look, we had Motaran in Wrath of Khan. We just had in Strange New Worlds, once again dipping into the nebulas. We know there's not a lot of places you can hide in space. So, all right, I got your nebula, but give me something new, give me something different, and let's see where they go. But that's the very end of the episode. So, but yes.
Yeah, and then I was almost wondering because, when they initially face off with the Titan, and, Shaw's on the bridge now, and they're starting to assess their situation. And, she's like, go ahead, scan my ship. Because, you may have heard of me because, there's stories around the campfire of this ship. And, they analyze it. And all its stats are off the charts with torpedoes and phasers and many other things. It's way off the charts. And yeah, it gives me that feeling of that ship in Nemesis and Nero's ship in 09. But there was also a little part of me that, because maybe I accidentally was watching this episode with my TOS cap on or something. Because having my TOS cap on there's a little part of me that was wondering if that was all just trickery. Like there was a part like the carbonite maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
There was almost a part of me wondering if this ship really is as powered. Now, of course, you already alluded to the scene where they throw the other ship at them. So maybe there is something to back it all up.
Yeah.
But my TOS cap was almost telling me that maybe the ship wasn't as powerful as it really as they say it is.
Yeah, no, that's a legitimate concern, especially had it been the old series. That kind of silliness might have been in there. I don't think I do. I'm glad they did not go there. And so you are correct that if it had been a old school next gen, that kind of foolishness would have been very likely the case. Not this time though. Not this time. We need him to be a real threat.
So, of course, what is she after? And maybe it's the trailer talking. I don't know. I don't think she's the big bad. I don't know who the big bad is. I just don't think she is. But she's with whatever that organization is, which I have no idea. Still, we don't know who these people are. But what is she after, or what are they after? This organization, and it is Beverly Crusher's son. Now I'm just going to go ahead and jump to it because we're already thinking now. And this never really made sense to me either in anything, not just Star Trek. But Riker is real hip to this, to noticing that when they and we meet Crusher's son, younger son, new son, Jack, Riker can't get off the fact that this guy has a British accent.
Well, it's not just the accent.
It's not just the accent. I understand, but for some reason there's a bit too much focus on the accent, even though there is other details and other circumstances. I just don't ever understand. Hey, this kid has an accent. Wait a second, you have an accent. Like what?
All right, look. We're gonna let go the accent thing because look, you have a legitimate concern, but first of all, they're in space. Where are they picking these accents up from? I mean, Bob.
Well, exactly. So my point is, since when did accents become hereditary? Is really ultimately my point.
Exactly. Well, so no one has said that it's the accent that has led Picard to believe that Riker to believe that's his son. No one said it was the accent. All right, so we're going to acknowledge that we have heard it.
I don't think Riker vocally said it, but he seemed to be winking whenever he heard the accent.
That is not what he's referring to. His mannerisms, the banter, the stubbornness, as well as the strange 20 years that we haven't seen Beverly. Those are the pieces that put together. He's not just saying because of the accent. That is it. So Riker is doing, you see it, don't you? You see what I see? I refuse to acknowledge it. No, you see it though, right? You look at how he moves. Look at that. So yes, Riker is doing the elbow the whole time. That is, you ought to be putting this together, buddy, and reasonably so.
And the other thing that was not difficult, but I had to get over another hurdle. I had to get over with this discovery was that so Riker's saying what he's saying, like you see it, right? And what was bothering me with the anticipation of the reveal was Picard could. Really, the question was, did y'all ever hook up or not? Because in my mind, if they never hooked up, Picard needs to just go ahead and say so.
Well, no, I don't believe. Okay, I'll put it out there. I'm pretty sure they did hook up, not just because of Jack, but because his girlfriend, his Romulan girlfriend, said that you all tried to make a relationship work. When you say something like that, it is very unlikely that they mean holding hands on a date a couple of times.
No, you're not wrong about that. But for some reason, when she was saying those things in episode 1, for some reason, my brain was going back into TNG lore of them trying to have a relationship prior to the events of TNG's series. So for some, you know what I'm saying?
Well, there was the will they won't they back then, but I had a feeling post that there was more going on. That was my impression. That post that is when I right away felt like it was post the next gen space
Yeah, my brain was uncertain because
Okay. Yeah.
if that's what the reference was to, because we've never known.
Yeah.
We
No.
could certainly assume, but we never really truly knew.
Yeah. Like I said, they were just holding hands through Next Gen that we knew. In order for her to say that, I believe that it was something more post that time. So that was my feel right away.
Okay, I thought she was talking pre.
Nah.
Mm-mm.
And remember, she's also Romulan intelligence. So, I mean, saying that to say, I really don't think if it was the lightness of what they were doing during the series, she would have acknowledged or called that out. I'm certain she is referring to something more, significant than that. So,
All right. So then Jack, and I forgot. Okay, this episode also, and oh god, they did this just to pay me because I have all this anticipation of the cliffhanger set up in the previous episode, and then they kick this one off with a 2 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. No, look, I'm going to say this again. One of my biggest beefs about early Picard is they make simple things complicated and complicated things too simple. Why they couldn't just tell a damn story sequentially? There's no reason to do all this time jumping like they do. Now, it's less now, but if you go back and watch, season 1 and season 2 of Picard, it's the past, it's the future, they're always jumping around, and it was unnecessarily complicated. There was no payoff for the complexity of them jumping around. So, we're 2 episodes in, and there's only been one minor time jump, so I'll let it go. But right away, I was like, oh, here we go. When I saw it, I was like, oh, we don't need this. But okay, so yeah, fine. I see. I see your time.
And thankfully, it's relatively short and brief, and it's dispatched. I was afraid this whole entire episode was going to be a 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and that was going to wreck me.
And that would have been one of the earlier 2 seasons. They would have done some foolishness like that. But okay, so thankfully, mercifully short. You were correct. I saw that too, and I was like, oh, here we go. But they pulled it out. They didn't.
Yes, and the point of it was to establish a little bit of Jack Crusher's life or lifestyle prior to the events of the series, which he's sort of like a do-gooder, but he operates in the space in between. He's not affiliated with any authorities or anything like that. He's like sort of like a Robin Hood type character.
Yep. He's a roguish do-gooder. He's like Han Solo.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm fine with it, I guess. And I guess that's what he's been doing. So, what is it that he's gotten himself into that Vatic and whoever she's affiliated with just have to, and they have to get him alive. That was established in the first episode, or maybe it was this episode they established that they apparently have to get him alive. What is the deal? What? And he the character Jack is playing as if he has no idea. Now maybe he does know, he's not telling us, I don't know, but he's up to now playing as I have no idea why anybody wants me this badly.
Yeah, well, that's how he's playing it, and he's playing a lot close to the vest here. So the fact that he's keeping some rather significant secrets and seems to be able to keep a straight face at it implies all kinds of things. He might know exactly what it is that she wants already, but yeah.
Now, Captain Shaw, as was established in the first episode, he's trying. He doesn't want to get dragged into whatever this is, and I feel for him on that. And he just keeps getting sucked more and more into it. He rescues them at the last second to resolve the cliffhanger from last time. He's still not happy about it. I'm surprised considering all that's happened so far. I'm surprised that Captain Shaw didn't relieve Seven of her post much earlier than this, or much earlier than when he does. Like, I'm surprised he didn't put it in the brig as soon as he realized, they had charted course to where he said not to go. I'm surprised that he left Seven in her position for so long. But
yeah, I have a funny feeling that he thought it was over And so this is over. You're going to get a stiff talking to, reprimand, and we'll handle this when we get back to the star base. I don't think if he had known that more chaos was going to escalate, he probably would have relieved her earlier. So, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he's still fighting against, and I do like, because the more he gets caught up in the plot against his will, I do like that his eyes are opening to the situation, that you do see some gradual, like, okay, yeah, you're right. We do got to do this. Do got to do this. Okay. And, just to flash forward towards the end of the episode, I do like that he seems now to be on board with things, because I had a feeling he was going to be, and part of this is because of the stupid influence of the stupid trailer. He kind of seemed like he was going to be forever an antagonist, which was going to be annoying eventually. I do like that we're just 2 episodes in, and he seems like he's much more on board as a team player now.
Well, I'll simply say this. I hope he's not, because I think he brings a realistic alternate point of view here.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
and I'm holding out the fact that Seven might have said the thing that made sense. I am not certain that he is on board from an altruistic standpoint. I have a feeling that he looked up and was like, if I'm the captain that loses an admiral and another captain, this is going to look really, really bad. So
yes, I agree with that too. Yes,
I would like to believe that he is still being motivated by some self-protection at this stage, and being
yes, I'm all for that. I'm all for what you're saying. That yeah, he's still looking out for himself, but I could still see it, like when you have other cartoonish evil admirals or evil captains in Star Trek, where they'll just completely go down with and like screw themselves over.
Right.
And I was worried that he was going to be like that model.
Okay, yeah.
Where he was going to be like, screw it, I don't care. I'm sticking to my guns no matter what, which would have been terrible.
Well, this is why I have liked him so far. He makes sense. I don't agree with what he's saying, but the stuff that he's saying makes sense. I don't want to get drawn into this. You two are nothing but trouble. How am I supposed to be believing all these Borgs around here? The stuff that he is saying, like I said, I don't necessarily agree with him, but it makes sense. So I'll take it. And as long as he's being consistent, I don't have to agree with it, but I just need to. It just needs to make sense.
And another thing I like, and I hope it holds true, and I think it will, just gut. I hate, and we've seen it in the previous seasons of Picard and other shows, I would hate for him to be in league with the bad guys, like for us to discover that at some point.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because that's already been done. I don't think it's going to happen in this show.
No, I don't.
But assuming it doesn't happen, that is refreshing.
Yeah. Let's hope that's not the case. I don't feel it. Sometimes
I don't feel it at all either.
I don't. Yeah.
But thank goodness, because that has been done to death already.
Yep.
And I don't need that in my Star Trek life at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, because there's been virtually no new characters or like non-legacy characters in Discovery or Picard. There's practically been no non-legacy characters that I've come to like or enjoy or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shaw may be the first. And I'm not counting the new characters in Strange New Worlds. That's sort of the non-legacy one. That's a different situation over there.
Mm-hmm.
But in Discovery and Picard, I think Shaw is the first legitimate, like, new created character that actually has some kind of. I really like this character.
Yeah. I can see that. Mm-hmm.
Super interesting, and I've seen the actor in a couple things prior to, but he hasn't done that much notable prior to Star Trek. But he has this way about him, the actor, that I feel like he should have, up to this point, he should have had a much bigger career. In other words, I feel like he's been underutilized, just in general, even outside of Star Trek. Todd Stashwick.
Okay, well, no, he's I like him. I like him. He's definitely interesting.
He almost has a vibe like the actor who plays Negan in The Walking Dead. I can't remember that actor's name, but he almost reminds me of that actor a little bit. But I kind of like this guy more. I don't know if that's sacrilege to say. But yeah, okay. So where are we? Because this episode, the first episode, as enjoyable as it is, you feel the runtime. This episode, it feels like it barely lasts for 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's a fast one. There's a lot happening and it's fast.
Like I can't, like when it's over, you're like, what?
Yeah.
No way! Like, are you kidding me? Another week I have to wait?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a detriment to it. It just has such a flow that it's gone almost as soon as it's here. Now, so Ravi, is that right? Raffi. So she's following this trail again on her own, now independently, because her handler via WhatsApp, is like told her no.
Told her to disengage. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, disengage. But she's like, screw this. I'm a one-woman army. And she goes in and she's after this guy named Sneed, which is a weird name for a Ferengi. And she goes off to his hideout to get some information, and we think that she gets in over her head. And I like this Ferengi. I mean, we don't get to know him very long, but with the new series, the Paramount Plus series of Star Trek, you never know what legacy aliens are going to look like or how they're going to be perceived. Or not perceived, but realized is what I meant. And I think this is a decent updated look for a Ferengi. I have to say, when I go back and watch DS9 and TNG episodes, the Ferengi makeup does look a little, looking at it with modern eyes now, it does look a little not realistic at times. But I think they updated the Ferengi look pretty good in this. I can't remember if we've seen Ferengi before in Paramount Plus Trek.
Yeah, not that I recall.
Yeah, not that I recall. I can't remember like any random ensigns or anything like that. But I think this guy, for his relatively short screen time, I think they updated the look pretty good, like to a cinematic level. I mean, without straying too, like it's different, but not too different.
Yeah.
And I like that. And of course, we can't really see who the character is, but we all know who the character is, who saves Raffi.
Yes. Oh, we do see who the character is. We see.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised. Oh yeah, you're right.
We knew by the weapon. But right, clearly, we could.
Well, I believe they created a new
Batleth,
like unique Klingon weapon for this series. Now it's based upon the Batleth, certainly, but I believe it's a new creation specifically for this.
Well, it's
what's
certainly,
that?
I said, oh really? Okay, well, it certainly harkened to Batleth, so I
yes, it did, and because I read an article about this. This new weapon is designed by the same person who designed the original Batleth.
Okay,
so there is some lineage in that kind of way. And just like they did with the TNG movies, whenever they show Worf in the TNG movies, they would, for just a few beats, play the original motion picture Klingon theme.
Yeah.
Also by Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah.
Which I always loved as a kid, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun one. That's a fun, the horn.
And they did it again when they showed him in this. They played that original Jerry Goldsmith music. Hey, he's back, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely wasn't expecting Worf to be the handler.
Yeah, that got me too. I mean, we knew he was coming. I was not expecting that to have been his role. So that's cool. And
they really covered it up well because they had those text messages and Raffi's, which is that supposed to be Rios' old ship?
I thought so. I'm not sure, but
it's definitely the same set. No question about that.
Yeah, I think it is. But I don't know. How did she get it though? Didn't the board make off with Rio's ship?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's that. Okay, go on. Yeah,
But it was also established in those earlier seasons that there was many ships like that.
true. Yeah,
So yeah, that's why we're unsure if it's actually supposed to be his actual ship or just the
that
same
class of
yeah,
the
exactly.
Raiders like them.
But they did well with the text message communication, and then the computer voice having that innocuous young female voice.
Yeah,
That was perfect to throw us off the trail.
sure. Sure. Yeah, like I said, I thought it was an AI or something actually, so I wasn't sure.
I'll tell you, I thought it was some baddie in on it all and setting Raffi on a wild goose chase. Um, but oh no, it turned out to be our next legacy character. So that makes, I think, 4 now in this season, between Crusher, Beverly, Crusher, Riker, Picard, and now
Worf is
Worf. Of course, we had already met LaForge's daughter as being on the crew of the Titan.
Yeah.
But I think that's it right now. For now,
so far. So
yeah. Seven, of course, but she was, she's already been pretty heavy in the show already. And we didn't talk about this, but I was a little surprised because wasn't that a thing before that was an issue? Because Seven was never in the Federation prior to now, right? I mean, they never said that, did they?
Okay, so no, but remember, Admiral Picard gave her a fleet, promotion during the encounter with the Borg just before the supernova. So at that point, remember, because they'd been rolling and getting along through all their time space adventures. And so now here we are, the entire fleet having to confront this Borg coordinator. Who better to do it? Seven's right there. And so Picard gives her that fleet commission right at that point. Now, that was the first official appointment of Seven to Starfleet. But it is obvious to believe that well before that, Janeway had been trying to get her in Starfleet, and she'd run away from it for her pirate days. So that was the other hint that a lot of time had passed when season 3 begins, that she had settled into a position, as part of Starfleet, working, with the captain and doing all that stuff. So that's the other hint that a lot of time has passed. She's already established as part of Starfleet first officer.
Okay, I had forgotten all that, and then I was wondering, they seem to sidestep everything. And even if that did happen, I didn't remember it. But had I remembered it, I still would have been wondering if that would have just been considered like a field promotion that maybe they'd take back later.
Yeah,
but
when you got 2 admirals pulling for you, that'll move.
Speaking about Janeway for a hot second, it's already been reported from an interview with Kate Mulgrew that I believe she said that she will not, she's already said she will not appear in the series.
Okay.
Which I'm almost hoping this is like a Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield situation, like with the Spider-Man movie, where they say they're not going to be in it, and they turn out to be, because it really seems, I mean, she doesn't obviously need to be like a main character, but it really seems like she should pop up at some point just to say hello.
Well, she's, in the animated series, but where would you think she would show up?
Well, sometime later in this season. Like I said, maybe not as like a principal player or, but it just, because this season is
well, yeah,
they say it's to be like a big goodbye or like
but
a farewell letter to TNG. And I get it, she's not TNG.
Right.
But having Seven there, going along with this ride, and because this is, of course, yet another event that is threatening like the entire Alpha Quadrant, seemingly, you would think that her being an admiral or whatever because Prodigy takes place, I believe, sometime between TNG and this. Okay. So whatever happened in Prodigy, I believe, is like a decade or so prior to these events, I think. Okay. So you would think if her character is still alive and just having such a prominent position that she would actually appear rather than just be mentioned or alluded to.
All right.
You would just think. I would just think.
No, I agree. But let's see what happens. But yeah,
I kind of know what else to say because, like I said, this whole episode seems like it goes by so quick, and we've kind of covered a lot of the big points.
All right, so let's, I just want to reiterate now. So during her dealing with the Ferengi, who by the way has a 48-hour shadow. First time I've seen a Ferengi with a 48-hour shadow. That's an interesting twist. But during her negotiation with the Ferengi, in order to make sure she's not a narc, she's got to take the drug that she has been avoiding this whole time. So you know what that means.
Yeah.
That this is going to be yet another Rafi angst that is going to be going through the will she, won't she, can she, come back from this? What, how is this going to affect her moving forward? So, there you go. It's all set up.
Why do they hate her so much?
Well, look, I told you we got to have somebody. If we can't have everybody going through this kind of pain, somebody's got to go through it. So there you go. So we know now this is the trauma that she is.
And let's not forget too, because I'm assuming we'll learn this later too at some point. But at the end of season 2, weren't her and Seven like this like happily ever after situation?
Supposed to be, supposedly, yes.
Right. So I was assuming we'll get those answers eventually.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if that's something that they are interested in revisiting or not. Because right, they could just be moving things along.
Oh, you think they'll skip past that?
Possibly.
Oh, wow.
Well, look, what's up with Riker and Troy? Are we going to see
This is a throwaway line, and I'm assuming that we will see Troy again at some point.
That'd be my guess, but let's see, how far this goes. But
it's funny. I'm looking at that Ferengi now because I didn't notice the stubble.
Yeah,
and so I went to go look at it because you mentioned it. And now I look at it. First of all, that is interesting. That is another interesting detail. But number 2, because of that stubble and just the way the human part of his face, the non-prosthetic part of his face looks, this particular sneak, he looks like the way Al Capone was portrayed in black and white movies. He really does.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay, so let's get back with Picard and Jack. We know that Picard is wondering now. He's trying to figure out what the deal is.
How could she hide such a thing?
Well,
fine, they cut off communication, but how could she hide it from everyone that no one knew that she went through a pregnancy or this and that, unless there's some explanation like that it wasn't a normal pregnancy.
Well, forget that part. Don't even worry about the pregnancy aspect of it. That's only 9 months. That it's been 20 years is the bigger challenge, because look, she can hide a pregnancy. That's not, you can go on a vacation.
Well, right. But she didn't raise them like the full time, which well, I don't know why. But I'm just saying that's how you can explain like people not knowing.
Well,
and I don't know if it's established or not, or if it will be established. Was it just that she dropped out of communication with her old crewmates, or did Beverly Crusher like completely go off the grid?
Well,
I'm not.
It looks like she completely went off the grid. It looks like she completely went off the grid. I have a feeling that for whatever reason, maybe just like Jean-Luc, she got disappointed with Starfleet, and she didn't want to be tied down to those rules. She wanted to help and heal, and do it her way. So look, we in season 1 we see how Starfleet for expediency kind of threw Picard under the bus, and so we have seen them trying to revitalize Starfleet to try to bring them back around from some I don't want to call it stasis, but from some stagnation. And so it's very likely that she experienced that and was off doing her own thing during that time. So that's what I'm seeing, or that's my expectation. But we'll see. We'll see what's it. But anyway, so my point is he's got to figure out what's the deal with Jack now, right? There's clearly a very specific interest in him from the bounty hunters.
And he's checked the record, and there's all these other personas and identities. He's got to sit down and have this dialogue with Jack, and you can see, the sonar pings as they're going back and forth. He's having trouble looking Jack in the eye, not from any strategic standpoint. He's like, "Oh, these answers are sounding kind of familiar. This stuff sounded familiar." And Jack is holding, close to the vest in terms of, I'm assuming he knows. I'm assuming he knows Picard's his father. I'm assuming that's the case. Because hey, maybe Beverly kept that from him too. We don't know for sure. But anyway, the two are having their little chess discussion back and forth, and it's kind of interesting to see Picard trying to test the waters, figuring out who this person is, and as he asks these questions, he's finding out more, and it's lining up with that's probably what I would have done. This is probably making sense. This is so it's fun to see them going back and forth in their little dialogue there. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, and oh my god, I feel so impatient. Like I just want to know. I just want to know what the backstory is here. And speaking of Jack a little bit more, so this actor, like right away from the first episode, he looks so familiar to me, but I can't place him at all. And he reminds me of another actor from an older generation that I used to get this feeling with. I just looked him up. I never knew this other actor's name. I don't know if you recognize this guy by name. Do you know the actor named Corin Nemec? Where you would recognize him from would be he was in the later seasons of Stargate SG-1.
Gotcha. Yep. Now I see. Yes, he was.
So that actor,
Yeah.
I knew him from other things besides Stargate from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he would show up in anything, I'd always be like, who's that guy? Who's that? Like, I know that guy, but I don't know him. I know him, but I don't know him.
Yep.
And I was having that exact kind of deja vu
Nice.
with this actor.
I see it. Right away when you said it, because he was the replacement of what's his name on Stargate.
Yes.
And yes, indeed, I see it.
Yeah, and so this guy, who's named Ed Spielers, or Spelliers, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I had the same reaction, which I know this guy. It's going to make me feel really dumb when I go back into his IMDb and figure out where I know him from. And it was a bit, in a way, a deeper cut than I expected, because I thought it was going to be something more recognizable for me, even though it is and it isn't. But yeah, he was actually a side character for about 2 or 3 seasons of Downton Abbey. And, I'm a big fan of that show. I love that show. I really love Downton Abbey. And it's a large cast of characters over the different seasons. And he was a side character, but when I realized, oh my gosh, it's so him. And he's not he's not I don't think he's anyone's cast favorite in Downton Abbey in particular, because there's so many other characters to fall in love with. But he's still notable enough in that show. And I thought, oh wow, good for him to make that leap from that show to this program. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I have no idea what's going to go on in this series as it unfolds, but I kind of hope this guy sticks around in the Star Trek universe in whatever form it takes post Picard, because this is another thing that Star Trek has an issue with, that nobody seems to trouble themselves with too much. But I hate when they have these characters of course he gets killed, but Hawk in First Contact, you kind of think he's going to be this ongoing character in the Star Trek universe. And he seems well poised to be, and then poof, he's gone. Or you could say the whale scientist in Voyage Home, or oh my gosh, I can't remember her name, but the black female in First Contact as well. There's a lot of characters that get established in newer Trek, and then they're just never seen again. whatever reason. I still haven't figured out. There's probably some book or autobiography to read to explain what happened to Ensign Rowe in TNG.
Yeah.
But that I'm just unaware of. There's probably some story that people know as to why she didn't continue with the show. But I kind of want this guy to stick around, even though I've only known him for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
Star Trek is not known for carrying on side characters.
Yeah. Well, this is a significant character, though.
That's true.
So we've
That's
got
true.
that going on. I appreciate subtlety. I appreciate thoughtfulness. And the scene when Beverly finally, Riker brings Beverly up on the bridge. And Picard's been trying to figure out the answer regarding the boy, And when Beverly steps on the bridge and Picard looks at her, and they have that look back and forth. They didn't have to say anything. There wasn't a big emotional conversation about it. It was all in the looks. And as long as they've known each other, the history that they've had, that we know of from Next Gen, as well as the imagined, relationship that they have shared, all they had to do was look at each other. And Picard looks at her with a question. She looks back at him, and her response is she knows the authority, power, and strength of Picard, and she doesn't want to admit that it is his son because she knows what he would do as a result of that. She's trying not to say anything because she knows that if she says something, she's going to obligate Picard to it. She's going to obligate, but he's asking her, and she's trying not to say anything. And the look going back and forth between those two, it's a whole conversation just in looks. And she gives it away, and he knows, and she knows he knows, and then he knows, and he's like, oh God. That is what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. You didn't have to have a big, passionate, emotional back and forth that took 8 minutes to get through. Dragons, well, why didn't you tell me why? We know there's going to be more later. But that is how you do it in a situation, in a high-pressure situation that doesn't distract from the action of the scene, and still maintains an emotional depth. That's how you do it. So, well done. That, this is what I'm talking about. This is how you do it right. So, well done.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is an incredible scene. It's done perfectly, exactly as you described. I love it. I bring this up in the movie podcasts I do. It reminds me. I don't know how well versed you are in your Godfather movies, but there's an infamous scene in the second Godfather during this Senate hearing scene where this mobster character is going to testify to something, and you can't figure out how Michael Corleone's going to get out of the situation because he's on this, he's before Congress or whatever, and then Michael Corleone's guys just bring in this elderly character from the old country Italy, who we don't know who he is, and they just seat him in the room. We don't know who he is. He doesn't say anything, but it's this situation of this unspoken communication between him and the guy, the mobster who's on the stand.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the mobster on the stand, it's like message received, and he like completely changes everything about his testimony just by seeing this character who we don't even know. And so whenever I see that in something else, I always harken back to The Godfather Part 2. It's used differently in this situation, but it's so perfect. It's so well done. And while you were describing it, I was watching it, and even with the sound off, because I don't even know that Beverly even speaks a word.
She doesn't say anything. Not a
It's so
word.
good. It's so good.
It
It's
is.
really good. And when Picard does admit out verbally to everyone in the room, the bridge, that he's my son, I'm actually, or you're gonna explain to me how I'm a little bit off, but I'm actually surprised, knowing what we know about Shaw, how once he hears that it is his son, I'm surprised how he just, that's the point where he goes all in, or basically submits to the admiral.
That makes total sense. So do you got a problem with
Because I
that?
kind of felt like, well, let me just, before you explain it to me, knowing what we know about Shaw, I almost felt that his character would be like, well, this makes no difference. I mean, if he's your son or not, the situation still is what it is. Like, there's a certain pragmatism of Shaw that I thought his pragmatism would be like, well, oh well, too bad you. But that's not what happens.
No. But see, no. So here's the thing. Already there is the unspoken between Beverly and Picard. And in that unspoken, there's the recognition that if she, if Picard knows that that is his son, then he will do anything to save him. And again, so Beverly has tried to keep him from Picard this whole time. And here we are in the situation where, it's so much pressure that she can't hide it anymore. She can't keep them apart anymore. And so one domino falls in terms of, now we got Papa Bear involved in the situation now. So one, the recognition and power of, now you got Admiral Picard and you got his boy. Now you got Shaw. It's like, I'm trying to get out of this, and now this is your son. I'm screwed. I mean, he's just like, there's no use fighting it now. It's just like this. I was trying to put up a defense, when it was a ruffian and a pirate. I thought I could get out of this. There's no way now I'm going to be able to get out, so I might as well sit down. I mean, that is what Shaw comes to the rational. This is what I'm talking about. I don't always agree with him, but he makes total sense. And that is exactly, you honestly think, what? There is nothing that Shaw would be able to do to stop Admiral Jean-Luc Picard from trying to save his son. So it's that rational pragmatism. It is like, oh, well, all right, what are we going to have to do? It is totally rational that was his response in that situation. So again, this makes sense. These people are making sense. The characters are making sense. The context in which they're behaving makes sense. A rare thing with modern trend. And you see, not a whole lot of dialogue. Didn't have to do a whole lot of explaining and exposition. This makes sense. So there you go. That's the rational response. Can't get in the way of Papa Bear. Papa Bear, Picard. I mean, look, he's already got half the senior crew against him. Seven don't want to listen to him. Riker's fighting him here. Picard's not wanting. The bridge crew's throwing, eyebrows around. He's got nothing. So you mean to tell me, what could he possibly, in a rational sense, is he just going to stand up and go, no, we're going to let his son go. Let's leave. There's no way. He's got nothing. So this is the total rational response to that situation. It makes total sense. Total sense. And it just reinforces his dread from the beginning. As soon as the boys rolled up on his ship, he's like, oh, God. Already they scratched the paint. They threw a Reliant at him already. So he's like, oh, crap. My ship, I didn't have any dust on it. Everything was in ship shop. I just left the space dock. These boys are on the bridge for like one day, and already I got space pirates and missiles coming at me. I've got to run through a nebula, and they threw a ship at me. He's in. This is the natural response, and it is well portrayed by this guy as Shaw.
I love it. No, yeah, you're right. I I gotta get my 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 I gotta get my reckoning stick recalibrated. I'm gonna say something that I think is taboo these days. I'm really unsure in our changing.
Uh-oh. No, what are you about to say? What are you about to do?
No, because what I want to say, but I feel like you're not supposed to say these things now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know me, I'm gonna say it anyway.
What is it, Archie? In my day,
no one has ever referred to me in that way before. That's really
well, you haven't said it yet. Let's see. It's going to be you and me. I'll be Jefferson. You'll be Archie Bunker. Bring it on. What you got?
Well, what I want to say is that I think Dr. Beverly Crusher, or in particular Gates McFadden, has aged extremely gracefully. I feel like you're not supposed to say those kinds of things nowadays. Someone has to re-educate me on exactly why, but I feel like I have to say it though. Like, she looks amazing.
She's got a great look. She really does. I mean, she does not look the same as she did. She has grown into a very distinct new look, and it's working.
Yes,
It's working.
and I love the hair color and everything. The style, it's so great. And also, I've been kind of thinking of this on my own lately, going back over some TNG stuff and movies, because I was really thinking about it, and this, how this has been advertised as this big reunion, bringing the old TNG crew back together. And I was thinking, like, in the movies, in the TNG movies, even though they were all there, a character, especially like Dr. Crusher, like, what significant moments can you think of with her character in the TNG movies?
Yeah.
Like, what moment? Like, Worf had some moments, Geordi had some moments, and I'm thinking of the non-primary, so like the not Data, the not Picard characters. Like, Crusher really did not have many moments.
Crusher, and even you said Geordi. I can't remember anything really significant that Geordi got it.
The thing that Geordi had in the movies would be his moments when he'd be reflecting on, like, his new eyes, or like, he had those scenes where he'd be looking at a sunset, explaining something to someone. So he had those. I can remember those moments. Now, in the actual plots of things, no, he didn't have anything particular to do.
But yes, the secondaries were underutilized. They were underutilized.
And I was thinking, this is one of the greatest things. Even just that silent moment that you were talking about, this is one of the greatest moments the character's ever had on screen.
Well, she deserves it. I mean, these are
absolutely.
We've been fans of them for a long time, and I felt that they were underutilized in the movies. A lot. So this is the swan song for these characters, I assume, and I mean, they deserve a real send off. Like I said, they deserve a real send off. So
it'd almost be like if they had like a TOS movie or something, where like the movie kicks off because we get all into Chekhov's backstory or something. And like, we have to rescue Chekhov's daughter. Like, whoa, that would never happen.
Yeah. Sulu, Chekhov, we they needed more.
Yeah, so to have this kind of focus on her, and remember, this whole thing kicked off with her in the gunfight in the very beginning of the first episode.
Yeah,
this is kind of cool.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, you're talking about giving the fans what they want. A thing between Picard and Beverly has been necessary since forever. Trek is not always the best at creating relationships, believable, feeling relationships. Every once in a while, they get it right. I was surprised Picard, Worf, and Dax worked so well. Surprisingly, Kira and Odo worked.
That's a weird one, but
okay. Wasn't that weird? But that word, hey, what's his name? Garrick and not Garrick. What's his name? Vedic Morale and what's her name?
Nurse Ratchet. Those two, and even that was a fun.
I thought you were going to say the tailor and the doctor.
No, I meant the other one. But but other than that, they have tried to make couples and relationships in Star Trek, and they are not good at it. Like Rios and Girardi. I mean, come on. So when there is a real relationship, and it is among the principles like this they needed to do. So finally, I mean, we got Beverly and Picard getting back together. They got a boy. This is this was easy, low-hanging fruit, and they're doing it in a way that is respectful, and they're doing it in a way that is emotionally impactful. They could have done this too simply or too shallowly. They're doing it right. So yeah, it's overdue. Well overdue for these guys.
Yeah, and just a couple of side notes before we kind of close things out on this episode. Something I forgot to mention when I was going over the Titan and its aesthetic and its look as a starship. Something else notable about this design that I think it's a first in Paramount Plus Trek or even post Abrams Trek or whatever, because since Abrams, all the bridges on Starfleet vessels have had, like, I'm assuming it's a translucent aluminum like viewport. In other words, like a window that actually sees out into space. That was kind of established in 2009, and they carried it over into Discovery. I want to say the Enterprise in Strange New Worlds is that way as well.
I bet, yes.
I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this Titan ship is the first post-Abrams Trek Federation vessel where it has not been revealed or shown to have a window to space.
What? How do you know? How are you making that distinction?
Unless it has like some type of standard metal that opens and closes or something. Because in all the other Federation ships that we've seen in Paramount Plus world, when they show the exteriors of the ship, you can see, like, on the outside of the ships, you can see, like, the window or whatever facade on the bridge. But when they show the Titan, it looks like standard pre-Abrams, like, model. Like, the way the Enterprise always looked in the movies and whatever, which is the standard, like, it's just a solid dome.
Okay.
There's
I gotta look again, but there is a scene where we see them closing blast doors over it.
Okay, so maybe there is that, and we haven't seen that either.
What do you mean?
Even if that is the case, we haven't seen that prior to this.
Oh yeah,
like blast doors,
right?
And so, like I said, unless there's some blast doors that I just haven't seen, like whenever they showed the ship, they were up, because up to now we have not seen that enclosure for a window, which is noticeable in all the other Starfleet vessels since Abrams.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, let me look again, because I have a feeling they're doing transparent aluminum again. I have a feeling this is a window, but let me see if I can not find it from the outside. I wasn't looking that close.
Yeah, because when it leaves space dock, you don't see anything that indicates that there's some panel or something that is removable or something. So that was notable, to be determined when we see more scenes of the Titan in the future. And then the other weird thing that I noticed with the other ship, Vadic's ship, whatever the heck that ship is. I mean, we don't know where its design comes from. Again, like if it's a new alien species or who knows what, but who like created the ship. I had noticed in the first episode that it had that weird deflector dish looking thing, which weirdly looks specifically like the deflector dish from the Enterprise D. And when I first saw that in the first episode, I was like, what the heck is that? You never see anything that looks like a deflector dish on a non-Federation ship. Now, it turns out, I believe that is the emitter for the
unknown tractor weapon,
the tractor beam device.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. That's whatever. But it just seemed weird to me that it had that look of the Enterprise D. It just looks so similar to it that odd if that's just a coincidence in design. I'm not saying there's some weird connection to the Enterprise D, but I mean, just in the drawing sketch of it, I don't know how you could not notice that. Like even when the ship is on paper form, so to speak. Just a weird, interesting visual cue. I mean, because it's Star Trek, and I do the same thing with the Star Wars universe. Is just really looking at this stuff like aesthetically, like the design cues and whatnot. And I guess since I'm just pointing out random things we haven't really seen in Trek, I guess I'll point out that on the Titan, on the bridge crew, um, possibly the first time we've seen a bald Vulcan.
Yeah. Are you sure that's Vulcan? Is that what's happening there? I wasn't
I think
sure.
she's a Vulcan, I
Okay.
believe, and she's bald, and I don't think we've ever seen that before either.
All right. Well, yeah, I saw someone bald with pointy ears, and I did not know if that was. Now, are you sure? Okay, I'm looking at it right now. I don't see the eyebrows. So, are you sure that she's Vulcan?
I think she's Vulcan, and who knows? Maybe maybe she's a cross between a Vulcan and whatever species Ilea was.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Delton, maybe like a Vulcan.
Delton. That's what they are.
Yeah. All right, I'd buy that. It's yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's some interesting folks wandering around there.
But yeah, there we go. And again, it feels kind of weird to rate serialized episodes, but I can suss out a rating for this one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go first this time.
What are we doing? We're doing deflector shields.
No, I was gonna go with whatever that. And I feel like this must have happened in some other sci-fi movie, but sometimes we're gonna rate out of like eye spray narcotics. Didn't that happen in something before, like some other series?
I can't remember if that's what we have, but
I don't know. It was like RoboCop, one of the RoboCop sequels.
Well, okay, well, yeah, RoboCop 2. They did have the stuff, the eye drop stuff.
Oh, so it was eyes. Okay.
Yeah, that was the RoboCop 2.
There was that one. There's some other series I'm thinking of or something where they had.
But those were literally like eye drops. This is some kind of crazy holographic spray. So
yeah.
Incidentally, the highlighted blue around the eyes looked an awful lot like Skyline, but we don't need to go there. We don't need to go there.
Oh man, Skyline. That is so funny.
So what are we doing? Out of
5 eye spray narcotics.
Out of five spray narcotic drops, I'm giving it a 4. A 4.
Wow. Yeah, I'm also giving it a 4 as well. And the only reason being, because I'm all in on this so far. This has been a great ride, but this still left me wanting a little bit more, for a little more reveal, a little more get me into this. I need a little bit more. Everything's great. It's just a little bit more, man, because I want to go all in on this show. I mean, I am so far. It's just give me a little bit more. Oh God, it's crazy. It's crazy. This show is just, man. I think the term it's blue balling me, like really, really, really badly. Like okay, let's just get to it already.
They're doing great.
Everything's good. I just need more. When it released on streaming, I don't know why, for some ridiculous reason, I thought they were going to drop like the first 2 episodes at once, kind of like Andor or something. I don't know where I got that notion. So even in the first week where I was like, oh my gosh, there's only one. It's not enough. I think they did that with Picard season 1 as well. They dropped the first 2 episodes simultaneously.
Yeah, I recall.
So I just need more because it's actually really good.
Yeah. Well done, guys.
Yeah.
Well done.
So crazy.
Oh, by the way,
yes.
Did you notice with the destruction of the ship, the debris, the name on the debris?
Oh, yes. I forgot to bring that up.
Yeah. What? No, wait. I mean, did they do that in post? Because, I mean,
why do you say that in post?
I mean, because I don't remember Kirstie Alley, passing earlier, and this show came out.
Oh, see, I didn't even. That's. I mean, sad for me. I didn't even think of the Kirstie Alley connection. I was just thinking of the character.
Just you think of the character. I mean, I'm assuming that it was a tribute, right?
Oh, see, that makes sense. I don't know why I did not even think of the actress herself. I was strictly thinking of the character, and when I saw it right away the first time, and I thought, oh yeah, wow. I just thought it just seems like there's so many throwbacks. There's throwbacks to so many different Trek things, but there seems to be a concentration on Wrath of Khan in particular.
All right.
Let's not forget the Wrath of Khan. Oh wait. Except I was gonna say in Wrath of Khan, that's where we get introduced to Kirk having a son. Except Kirk knew about his son, right? It wasn't like Kirk was like, "Oh my god, I have a son."
Right. I think.
Right. I believe that's how it was. Like he knew he had a son, he just didn't realize that was his son because
Yeah.
I guess he hadn't seen him in a while.
Uh,
But my point is that's another connection to Khan I didn't even think of,
mm,
where we as an audience get introduced to the captain having a son that we never knew of.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of callbacks to Khan, even though it's not full on like copying the Wrath of Khan. Thank goodness, because that would be another disaster. Um, so seeing Savik's name, I just thought, oh yeah, it's another fixation on Wrath of Khan for some reason. And I also thought, again, I wasn't thinking about the actress at all. I don't know why, but I was thinking, man, it seems like a shame for her shuttle just to get blown. I'm assuming that was the shuttle
Yeah.
that they
Right.
came in.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, it's a shame for the Savick shuttle just to get blown apart.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you mentioned the actress, and I completely forgot about her passing, that probably is a connection,
But I'm just pointing out
like a tribute.
from a special effects, creative, and integrating it into the show standpoint, that was a tight window that they managed to get that in there. That was
Yeah, but I can see them
Yeah.
doing that. I mean, just for that one little
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
I can see them pulling that off. And we don't talk about the effects much in these new Star Trek shows because we're usually either occupied with disliking Picard Discovery or liking Strange New Worlds. But the effects continue to look really, really good. I was just looking at the debris field, like in the nebula, and seeing the ship go around it. And this really is cinematic stuff because
I've loved the look of them, all of them, all including Discovery. I don't like the uniforms, but the ships are the ship interiors are pretty, the weaponry is pretty, the technology is pretty, and it makes sense. So they've done a great job with the look of the worlds.
yeah.
They it's just beautiful. It really is.
And speaking strictly of the motion pictures or the films pre-Abrams, even as recent as like the Nemesis movie, while there are some effects that work, there are some like you can always tell that the Trek movies pre-Abrams were always on a budget, somewhere, some worse than others.
5.
And even as recent as Nemesis, like if you watch it now, there'll be certain effects that you go, oh, okay, like man, that's on the cheap. Like it's not Star Wars of the same era type of effects, but it's crazy how good everything looks now.
Yeah, they're very pretty, very pretty.
Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, stay tuned for more Picard coverage on this podcast, as well as we'll sneak in some other classic Trek things in here or there along the way. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Carl, because I love being a guest on your show. Because really, like, left to my own devices, like I was kind of going in my own tangents in just feelings and reactions to the show. But like I said, I think my compass was off with a couple things, and you kind of like put me, like you helped recalibrate things where maybe my brain was going astray in speculation and whatnot. So
Well,
yeah,
it's good. It's good to have somebody to bounce things off of. You know, 'cause like I said, I try to run self diagnostics to make sure I'm not going off the rails. But to have the dialogue that really clarifies things. So it's always a good time. Always a good
it
time.
really does. It really does. So until we get to do it again, I'm Eric,
I'm Carl.
and until next time.
Keep those transporter dampeners off.
Beware Romulans bearing gifts